If you're watching these episodes in chronological order, you'll have noticed that last episode, in Starjacker, I announced that game kind of started a new era for Sega, an era where the games definitely jumped up in quality. But now I'm reviewing Champion Baseball. Obviously I didn't look too far ahead, right? Well, actually, Champion Baseball is a surprisingly good sports game. In fact, I think it beats a Famicom version. It's a port of an arcade game, and actually a pretty good port of an arcade game. The only downside that it has is that it is a sports game. This means that it ages just like most other sports games, and that's not very well. This was a really good game in 1983, but it's not a very good baseball game now. The bottom line is, you could pick up a World Series baseball on the Genesis for about 50 cents, a lot less than you could this game. Or you could even pick up last year's in MLB The Show for probably about $5 or less if you really keep your eye open. The cost for both of those newer games won't even cover the shipping for this game from Japan. But ultimately, that's really the only downside to this game, which may sound like a lot, but it's not. It's just that over the 20 to 30 years that this game's been released, you can pick up better, newer baseball games for a little bit less just based on geographical convenience. That's not a huge kind of insult to the game. It's honestly a really good baseball game for the time. Champion Baseball is a fairly accurate arcade port of the 1983 arcade game by the same name by ADK. Now, ADK was a fairly early and fairly influential arcade manufacturer in the 80s to 90s. They were formed in 1980 and kind of helped create several early games that a lot of people will remember, such as Crush Roller, Champion Baseball as we're going to see, and for Sega Master System fans, Time Soldiers. But their real fame came in the 90s whenever they left Tecmo and Sega and partnered up with SNK, where they created such games as Magician Lord and the fighting games World Heroes. Now, Champion Baseball saw a decent amount of success in Japan at this time. If you compare it to other baseball games of the time, it is fairly advanced. And the arcade game even made a little bit of a move coming over to the United States. It was issue 5 of Electronic Games, where they kind of announced the arcade coming over here and stated that Sega was seeing Space Invader-like success in Japan. Now, I'm sure that was definitely corporate hyperbole. From everything I've seen, the game was not that popular, but for a sports arcade game, it did seem to do pretty well. But certainly, there were no 100 yen shortages in Japan. One of the odd peculiarities of the Sg-1000 game is that you don't really get to select your team. Beyond that, you also really can't seem to select your pitch or your hit style, which for a baseball game of that era doesn't seem too bad, and I might be missing something because the instructions, I was not able to find anything for this, and I don't own the instructions. So basically, you position your pitcher, pitch the ball, you can control whether you want it to curve or go straight, so you can do that, you just really can't control the speed of it. And similarly with the batter, you can control the position, and then just attempt to hit the ball based on timing. But the biggest thing is just the different viewpoints that you get in this game. It definitely beats the competition whenever you compare it to the Intellivision baseball games, which were some of the best at the time, as well as the ColecoVision, which graphically were one of the better systems. Like I said, even the Famicom version, this game is definitely a rival, I would say better than the Famicom version. And although it's not a game that I would suggest going out and picking up, it is a game that I wouldn't necessarily write off. If you do happen to find it someplace, don't just think it's going to be a horrible sports game. It's just an outdated baseball game.